There we go.
Hey, live. Mental Health Monday. We're back.
Mental Health Monday. And it's a very exciting Mental Health Monday because we have our very first returning guest to the Chase and Shep Show. Christine Mauriello is joining us again today. Christine, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me back again.
Always
No
nice
problem at all.
to chat with you.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. So what do you all have on your minds today?
Oh, man. Shep, what do you have on your mind today?
I just have rolled out of bed before this. Really, I right when we started recording, I realized I was like, man, I didn't even brush my hair and nothing today so far. So it's like, cool. We're getting the day started right.
You got the natural beauty going. It's good.
Thank you.
It always throws me off when we record earlier in the day.
It does.
So we're so used to recording at night. I think the last time we did this, last Monday, we were both ready to call it a night. It was like maybe 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
We've got plenty of day left. We've got plenty of day.
So we were going to talk about hard things. I believe we decided on before coming into this.
Oof, yeah,
Like,
making those hard choices.
The hard choices I've had to
Yeah.
make plenty over the course of my lifetime, and it's never easier anytime you get to it.
Yes. But you know what I like about making the hard choices? First of all, we avoid it because we don't like pain. And pain is something that we're taught and trained early on to avoid. But we don't understand that there's a reward. And the more hard things that we do, the more able we are to do that next level up hard things. So we're just getting stronger and stronger and able to do more and more. And so as much as I don't like being in the season where it's like, okay, I feel like I'm in the cauldron and I'm getting boiled, it's really important to be in there because what comes out is really amazing. You know, you come out with kind of like bright and shiny. It's good.
Yeah.
Just doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I definitely get that sometimes. I've had to tackle on a few hard decisions in life. Like we were talking last week when I joined the Navy, the military, and that was totally outside my personality and my comfort zone or anything. But like my family was like, "Come on, you got to do this." My son was really little at the time. They're like, it's a career, and that was I was 21, I think, when I did that. So that was like my first real big, life-changing hard decision to make because I didn't want to do it. So it's, but it's like I gotta do this anyway.
Yes.
Wow. It's just, yeah.
That is hard.
Yeah.
That is hard.
It was different. Yeah. We got through it though. That was a while ago now. It's weird looking back with everything going on. Nowadays, I was seeing that ship stuck in the Suez Canal and stuff like that. And it's like, man, I went down that before myself. And that was terrifying because they did not like each other over there, conflict and stuff like that. And like I said, being thrown in that world, that was totally against my personality, beliefs. Because I don't like causing any sort of pain or anything on anybody else. So that was the first of many hard choices that like you were saying before, like, when you get through something and kind of level up, that made a lot of life choices after that might seem hard, maybe a little bit easier on me. Cause it was like, well, I've already got ripped out of my comfort zone thousands of miles away from where I grew up and all this weird stuff. So.
Yeah. Wow. I can't compare to that, but yes, I know those things where your life is taken out of your nice comfy zone and wow, it's super uncomfortable. And when is this going to end? I mean, when you sign up, you know how long you're going to be there.
Yeah.
There's certain things that we sign up for or don't really, but we stick with it. And we're like, when is this going to end?
Yeah. Like, thankfully I knew a time period was like, okay, this will be done at this time. But yeah, it was a very challenging thing to just do. So like when you get through that, like, I don't know, I'm one of those people that I do like to challenge myself in life though now, because I've done like music and stuff like that, and a lot of that was the same of getting in front of a crowd. I got used to playing to nobody most of the time, because that's just how it is being a local like nobody musician. You have maybe 10, 15 people, but then I got with some people that we started playing some big crowds, and it's like that was another one of those, okay, this is a different, really tough challenge that some people, like one of my friends that was doing it, he's done a lot with music, so that was nothing to him. He's like, I'm excited, I'm ready to go up there, and I'm over on the side throwing up, like I don't want to do this, but we're gonna, I guess we're gonna do this anyway, so let's see how it goes. I hope I don't mess up.
Isn't it amazing how some people are just born with this natural ability to jump right into something? Or, I mean, it's funny because I never really thought of myself as that type of person, but I guess, we're all on a range. I don't want to say that I'm not that type of person, but I'm definitely not like that person who says, yes, let's go it. I don't see myself joining the military. I think that would scare the bejesus out of me. But my daughter, she's one of those people. She will just grab the bull by the horns and she'll say, like, no, I'm afraid, but I'm just going to keep doing it. There are several things that she just was challenged with, and she would just go at it, and from a young child. So I'm excited to see her as an adult. She's 14 now, but I can't wait to see what Effie is going to be, because she's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know we've all sort of talked before about using superheroes to kind of help us work through stuff. And on this particular topic, I think superheroes have helped me out a lot when it comes to the hard choices and facing things down in life. I know a big thing for me in life is fear. Fear stops me from doing a lot of stuff in my life. And I always try my best to overcome it. I try to put myself into these uncomfortable situations and face that fear head on. And the whole time I'm thinking about Batman. I'm thinking about Batman because that's exactly what he does. And he's constantly doing it. He's constantly facing his fears. Daredevil is the same way. He's the man without fear. He's blind, but and then the hard choices, I think of Spider-Man. I think of Peter Parker and the choices he makes on a day-to-day basis, trying to keep that balance in his life, trying to make the right decisions, trying not to cause pain in the world and stuff like that. And again, I think that's what comic books are great for things like this, to help us through these things in life. But that's definitely where my mind goes when it comes to decisions.
I agree. I took my kids to see the new Wonder Woman movie this past weekend, and we saw the Dollar movie. It's been out for a while, so it was so awesome. I was sitting there and it was really much along the same topic, doing the hard things because it's the right thing to do. And at the very end, I'm not going to do a spoiler, but at the very end, they all make these really hard choices. And I was so inspired and so profoundly aware of the power of the choice. And that really is what it is. I mean, we can feel fear. That's not uncommon. Fear is a normal emotion. Hesitation, we gravitate to certainty, we gravitate to things of comfort. So when we're going up against something that we've never done or seen before, that's very common. It's a natural response for us to feel fear, and then use good judgment to say, okay, I feel this fear. This is still the right thing to do. I'm going to move forward.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. I feel like I'm kind of going through that a little bit myself right now. I was talking to a friend on the phone yesterday, just about how I've been feeling about stuff lately. And I got to a point where I felt like I was about to start crying, and it threw me off. I told her, I said, I think I'm about to start crying. She's like, why? I said, honestly, I think it's just because I haven't been able to talk to anybody about any of this in a while. We do this, and, Shep and I see each other sometimes, but, my best friend's been kind of MIA for a little bit. And I hadn't had a real deep conversation about the way I was feeling about things in a while. And so getting all that off my chest yesterday, I felt nice. And a lot of that was exactly what we're talking about. It's, that that fear of, am I making the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? Because it's very easy. It's crazy how one word from somebody can just topple your whole confidence and faith in yourself sometimes. Where, you know, I see Chase and Shep as, you know, if I'm gauging my own success, I'd say comparatively in the past, I've never engaged in so much creativity in practicing the things that I want to be doing as a career and getting better, because I'm always listening to somebody else telling me, make sure you have a backup plan, make sure you're working a 9 to 5 to pay for your dreams and stuff like that. And that's what I've done my whole life. And then all it takes is I'm feeling good about this. I feel like we're heading in the right direction. I feel like I'm doing the right thing. But then one person tells me, hey, it might not work out. And then that gets into my brain, and I have to start wondering, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right decision? Am I going to go broke and homeless trying to pursue this dream? But at the same time, I feel like the success, you know, I'm seeing it, you know. So we kind of touched on that last Monday about just believing in yourself.
Yes.
But it is making those hard decisions of, do I want to listen to these other people? You know?
Yeah.
Or just listen to myself. So that's a decision.
Oh. I mean, kind of to touch on that, it's not only important to know that you're going in the right direction for the right reasons, but also to know who you are, right? And just to have that firm identity, because there are some people in my life, I'll be totally honest, there are some people that I'm really grateful for because they do that to me. They say, well, it might not work out. And I'm like, oh yeah, you want to watch it? And they just bring that fire out in me. But then there are some people that they'll just drop these seeds of doubt and fear. Like that's their stuff. They have to hold on to it. But they put it on my plate and I'm like, wait, this doesn't belong here. And sometimes like I am impacted by it. So I have to be very cautious about who I let close to my heart. And I was telling you a little bit earlier that I'm reading this book because I'm kind of in my own, you know, having to make hard choices. And we have these patterns in our life. Every single person, nobody is exempt from this. And these patterns tell a story of what we're struggling with, what we still have lingering, what kind of wounds we have going on. And in my own story right now, it's about a particular identity type of a type of person that I'm letting into my life. And not only just letting into my life, like letting in like a very, very close position in my heart where they are feeding me things that are not edifying. They don't build me up. Their fear kind of flows over into my plate type of thing. And somebody pointed it out to me, and as soon as they said it, all these different faces popped up into my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, I have a problem. So I reached out for help, and you know, I was recommended this book called Safe People. That's something that I'm reading through right now. But I will tell you something, reading through the parts that I need to read through, it's hard. It is hard. Everything inside of me wants me to close that book and put it aside. Because even as uncomfortable as this is, it's still, you know, like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know, is that phrase. Well, I don't want that devil anymore. Like I want to put that away. And but it is still, there is still a natural resistance to what we know. So it's not just about the things that we know are good for us or good to do, but it's also the kind of people we allow into our lives, which for me, I think is so important because, you know, I don't know, I like Dove chocolate and they have this message. The messages, I love the messages on Dove chocolate because it just gives me a reason to eat more. I don't know. And one of them says that your tribe dictates your vibe, or they didn't use the word dictate, but influences your vibe. And that is so true. And I know what kind of vibe I want. So I am going to be more intentional. I am going to push through the discomfort of reading this section of the book of like why I keep picking this person to be a friend, and, you know, just push through. But it is hard. So like you were saying, Chase, you need people. So there are people that I'm talking through it and just saying, you know, This is hard. This is what I recognize, and it's very humbling. I mean, you have to be humble. You have to just say, it doesn't matter what people think of me. It really doesn't. My journey is more important than my people's perception of who I am.
Well, a phrase you used a little bit ago was letting somebody else's fear flow over into you, and I'd say that's exactly the case, because, like, from most of the people who are telling me to, find a different job and to do this and to do that, are coming from a loving place. They're coming from a caring place. These are mostly family members telling me this rather than friends. Whereas the friends in my life who have not, said something like that, but it was the other thing you were saying. They fuel that fire of they're like, we have to do it this way. I'm like, I'm gonna go do my thing, and it fuels my fire. Just that I'm gonna prove you wrong, that I can do this in the way that you say I can't. But I think it is that level of, when you care about somebody, I think it hits a little harder sometimes, even if it is coming from a loving place. But it's exactly what you said about fear flowing over, and that was something that I'm still practicing, but really started practicing last year when I sat down with my parents and I told them at the beginning of last year, listen, you are going to worry, you are going to stress, you're going to feel all these things. I can't. I can't take on any of that for you. Keep it to yourself, essentially. I said, just, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't need to hear it. I know how you feel about it. I know you're worried about me. I know you want the best for me. Don't tell me. I don't want to know any of it. Because it throws me off. It really throws me off. And it's that thing of, you want to make them happy, right? Because you care about them and you want them to not worry so much about you. But it was one of those things where I have to come to terms that I can't take that away from them. I can't take the worry and fear and stress away from them. I can't do it. So the best thing I can do is go and prove to them that I'm making the right decision. So.
And that might take time.
Yeah.
I know in my situation it did. My dad said the same thing to me about 5 years ago, and I love him for it because it really fueled me. It was like, no, I know I'm on the right path. I know I'm doing what I'm called to do. I mean, I just had this burning in my heart to help people, and 5 years later, I have a coaching company. I'm training coaches to help people who have PTSD or have PTSD in their background, who overcame stuff, and now they're helping people. So I know that I stayed on the right path, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't come without fear and worry, right? But you have to take it back to, what do I know? Because there's feelings and then there's knowing. So it's like, what do I know?
I've been there a few times in life with that, like with doing the music and whatnot. And, because music's one of those risky things when you're going about doing it that, a lot of people don't make it. And a lot of times it's just like, I believe in myself. I still had my jobs and stuff like that. It's not like I've ever not had a job or anything like that. So I always got the worry that people came in, but where the fear played into me in my life personally was always that, like, my family, I was the baby growing up. So, my parents, when they got divorced and stuff like that, like, my family really, I would say, like, cushioned me a lot. You know what I mean? Because they were good off. So, like, if I was in any sort of trouble, or I when I was younger was just messing up and wouldn't have a job, I was like, nah, but I don't want to live at home and stuff. They would always be there. So I would run into the problems being an adult, like being like, I had no credit score whatsoever because there was nothing I really had in my own name, because my family was like, oh no, it's fine here. Like, just, you can use my card. It's no big deal. Like, you don't need to get your own. If you get one, you'll go negative and it'll be bad, and you don't want that. So they had a fear for me that kind of impacted just learning to be a basic adult. And then, that's like the hard part of then coming into like trying to do all that on your own after being used to that. Like, you're growing up and that's just how it kind of was. But then it's like now, like, I've got my son, so I'm trying to teach him you know, to be an adult himself. He's going through his changes. He's 13. So, and it's like, I'm learning to be an adult myself, you know, but it's, I enjoy sharing it with them because it's like, yo, like I'm trying to learn and get knowledge and be better. And this is what to me being an adult is. So like, you should always do this within life too, because you'll never be too old to learn something new or to level up or to even try something new. And it, like, you know, because it is pretty terrifying, you know, when you're trying to go about things that you should have went about probably 5 years ago, and you're like, oh, all right, I'll get to it now. And then, you know, like for me, a lot of it is with what I go with, the problems that I'm going to face this year has a lot to deal with the state that we live in, and the child support system. And with being like a dad, with me, it always, it's a big mental strain when you're calling them up and you're like, listen, because they're charging me like I'm still in the military and I have not been. And when you try to go talk to them about that, it can come across as like, I don't want to pay for some kid. And it's like, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. I want it to be adjusted correctly to what it should be at. And they just make it a mental, like, just, well, you got to, you know, there's only one place you can do it in the entire state. So we'll send you a letter at some point, maybe. And then you got to send it back to us and it's just like, can I just go somewhere and show you my paychecks, please? Like, it should be that easy. But like with my son, it's like
the government. There's nothing easy with the government.
There really isn't. But I always felt like it's real important to show him these things because it's like, you know, like to me, it's showing him like, this gives me anxiety too, to go deal with this. And it's like, but you got to overcome that because there's not another person here on this planet that can come in here and be like, okay, I'm going to take you and I'm going to do this for you. It's going to be fine. You can just sit outside, sit back. We got this. So you do gotta just, I always just go for it. It's like, I'm going to look like a fool. I'm over it. I've definitely hit the age where I don't care. I will embarrass myself now. So it's like, I'll just go for it. Because a lot of this, I don't know. Like a lot of this, like, I feel like there was one instance I had where I was on the phone with somebody and I was like, basically they kept telling me, well, if you want to do that, you need to go in front of a judge. And I was like, but how do you do it? Like, how do you do that? Like, and I was like, is it that bad that at 33, I've never been to court, really? So I don't know how you go about going in front of a judge. I highly doubt I can just walk in there and walk right up and walk in front of one. I was like, I know that's not how it works, but like, it's hard, and it never stops, like, learning this stuff because it's out there, but it's not readily like in your face out there how to go about all this. You just gotta kind of, I don't know, do it. It's terrifying.
Well, and you know what I love about this conversation? We're all three of us are in different stages of our life, and we don't know how to do things. Instead of hiding behind the fact that we don't, because we don't want to look a certain way, we're just being open and honest about it. I mean, and that's what it takes. I mean, we want to change the world. We have to do that. We have to confess that we're having issues. We don't know what to do. And I mean, we're stronger in numbers. We're not weaker when we don't know things. We're stronger when we tell people, hey, I need help. I mean, I love doing that actually with my daughter, both of my kids. I say that I narrate living. So I'm going through something and I will narrate. I'll go through it. I'm like, listen, no one ever taught me how to budget when I was younger. So they're watching me go through the pain. And I'm 42. So it's like, oh my gosh, it's not that easy. It's not that easy to change, but it's such a gift to have the situation where I have my kids who are watching me go through it, because how people always say, like, I want to give my kids the things that I never had. And a lot of people are talking about tangible things. I want to give my kids the things that I didn't have, non-tangible things, that experiences, not that I didn't have love, but I mean, that's what I want to give my kids. I want them to understand that they can make any mistake and I will never feel any differently about them. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of change I want to make in their lives. And that's what I want them to have. It's the things that we're going through, that, you know, the mistakes. Living out loud is the most powerful thing we can do, because guess what? Where's the shame? There's no shame. If we are not afraid to make mistakes, then nobody can shame us. We're like, yeah, I'm human. Guess what? Newsflash.
Yeah, I actually just went over that with my son about a week ago, because he recently just moved to another state a few months ago, and that was another whole hard decision. But I decided to sit him down and talk to him and be like, listen, what do you want? And he knows that's something I did when I was 16. I moved from a very small town down to St. Louis, big city. And I feel like he wanted to have that sort of same experience. And he's like, I want to try it out. I want to make sure if I don't like it, I can come back. And, we were just very open about it. And I was like, let's do it. But out there, he's afraid to not be cool, obviously. So he's running into some troubles with some kids that he's became friends with. And that was one of the conversations that I got to have with him, is like, I was like, listen, like, you're an adult. You're transitioning into being an adult and being your own individual. You're gonna make mistakes, and I was like, you're gonna make some. I was like, you just made some dumb mistakes, and I was like, that's not gonna stop right now. I was like, there's nothing I can say to you right now that the rest of your life's gonna go perfect. I was like, but I want you to know that. I was like, I don't care what it is, where it is, or how it, I was like, if you make any sort of mistake, I was like, if there's any moment that you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I just messed up big time, I was like, you can right away contact me. And I was like, I guarantee you it's probably a mistake that I've made myself. I was like, and I can at least, I was like, you're at that age. I was like, I know you're going to get into high school, seeing all those high school kids and what they're up to. I was like, I don't care if it's even, Dad, I drank with some kids and I'm drunk and I'm going to throw up and stuff. I was like, you got my line. You can call me anytime. I was like, and I can tell you what to do and talk you into it. And, those, to me, those are always the hard conversations to have with my son, because nobody had that sort of a conversation with me at that age.
Yes.
So it's different, and it's like, because it's like I want to let him know I'm open if he messes up for him, but I don't want him to take it in a way that it's like, oh, I can go do whatever and just start messing up huge.
Yes, that's a fine line.
Yeah, and my dad's gonna be like, that's so cool, dude. You're cool for it. And then it's like, no, like, because him and his friends, they got in trouble having condoms in their backpacks at school, and it was like, and I was like, I want to tell you, I was like, you really don't need to have them in the backpack at school. I was like, that's kind of silly. I was like, but I was like, probably just knowing, his mom and stuff. I was like, what you probably haven't heard. I was like, from anybody, I do want to tell you, like, if you're getting to that stage in life, like, I'm proud that you're going to be safe about it. And like, that is like, important in my opinion. I was like, but like, I was like, stop focusing on that. I was like, we need to focus on schoolwork, and shit. It's
Bring
hard
books in your backpack.
Yeah, it's and it's hard. Kids, he's like, well, it's a game. I was like, I doubt it's a game that you guys were playing or anything like that. I was like, I'm not stupid, but I was like, you don't want to make the same mistakes. I kind of pointed out to him, because I was like, I'm about to be 34 in a month. I was like, there's no way at all I want to be a grandpa, or at this stage in life. I was like, I am not prepared to be no grandpa. So it's like, stop it. But I just I just always felt like it's important to have those lines open for him, to know that, like, I am here for him, because I don't want him to get himself in a situation where he makes a terrible decision because he feels like he has nobody that he can come to any sort of advice for.
I hear you. I mean, my kids know that, on my YouTube channel, I put out there a very open and honest video about the truth of who I am. And they know there's no way that I could ever judge them, because I was just very honest. Like I said, I've made some mistakes, and I don't hide from the mistakes I've made, I've learned from my mistakes. They've helped me to grow. So I'm not ashamed. I'm not happy that I did some of them, but I'm not ashamed to have them in my past, because first of all, everybody makes mistakes, and it helps me to connect with people, because we connect over similar experiences. And if I don't have any mistakes, then how can I connect? We're in a world that's riddled with people who've made bad mistakes and are living out the consequences of that. So I want people to know that, first of all, it's okay. That mistake does not define you. And the second thing is, I don't ever want my kids to think I'm perfect for the same reasons. I want them to be able to come to me and talk to me and say, hey, I know you are not going to judge me, because they know if I've done it, I will not judge somebody. That is not something that's going to come out of my mouth. So yeah, it's just so important. It's important just to have it out there. I mean, I don't tell them, of course, just to, for everybody, it has to be age appropriate. You don't tell your deepest, darkest sins to small children, but you let them know that you've made your own mistakes, and that it's okay that they are going to make mistakes, and that it's okay that they're going to be loved no matter what. So yes, just want to make sure I put in a disclaimer, don't just start telling your 2 and 3 year olds
oh no, yeah,
all the things that you did.
Yeah, my good friend Priyanka and I, we just had a long conversation yesterday morning about similar things, and something I was kind of thinking about. She was telling me where she's at with her parents, her relationship with her parents. And I told her it sounds a lot like where I was at with my parents 5 years ago. I told her I'm going to write down on a piece of paper that 5 years from now, your relationship will be significantly different with your parents, whether you think so or not. And I'm going to put it away somewhere. And if I'm right, I don't know, we'll celebrate or something. But I was telling her that where she's at now, it's kind of the whole thing you're saying with you don't want your kids to think that you're just perfect, Again, that kind of translates to the whole superhero thing, I was thinking that watching the Justice League the other day. I like that our characters that we love so much are flawed, that we get to see these hard decisions made through especially, well, what are we watching now? Falcon and Winter Soldier. A lot of that is just this gray area. Like, you've got heroes and villains, but it's all so gray because some bad people are doing good things, some good people are doing bad things, and I'm really liking that they're painting that picture that we're not perfect. And something I told my friend yesterday when she was telling me some stuff about her parents is that I think something we all kind of forget is parents are people too. I think that's something we kind of figure out as we all get older. But to any children who shouldn't be watching the Chase and Shep show, parents are people too, and it's easy to forget that. Definitely, the more I've learned about my parents and grown to understand them, and vice versa, just being honest, being open with one another, it's made such a huge difference. It really does make a world of difference just to talk openly with your kids. And we're just now getting to that point. But I think what you guys were saying, I think there's a little bit of an inverse there too, where kids kind of forget that their parents are just people who are going through some stuff. Like when I heard that my parents, when we first moved here, I always thought that we had money and stuff when we lived in Tennessee, but when we moved here, and I only recently found out my dad was working like a minimum wage job and all this other stuff, and I'm like, wow, like putting it all into perspective now, it really changes things. But the inverse of it is, I think that sometimes as adults, we forget where we were at as kids sometimes. I think, and there's definitely that level of fear where it's like, oh my God, I know what I did at this age, so I don't want my kid doing this, which, it makes sense. We don't want our kids, making these types of bad decisions or nothing. But I just don't understand the adults, the parents who act like these things don't happen. I feel like the people who take that stance almost always end up with kids who double down on it. Whereas the people I've met, I remember I met a friend back in high school, and to this day, she is a woman that I met at a young age that seems so sure of herself, and that's not to say she didn't have her own problems and stuff. I'm sure, she had her own stuff going on, but to me, she seemed so sure of herself, and she didn't drink, she didn't do drugs, she didn't, and it was all her own choice because she had this relationship with her parents where they were very open about everything that she did. And so here's this, young woman who's confident in herself, who doesn't make these decisions just because she doesn't want to do these things. If she is, involved in something sexually, she's confident in herself. She's responsible in those actions, and they're open about it. They're honest about it. And it was, in a way, it was so bizarre to me. It was very weird for me to see a dynamic like that, but to see how it worked in her favor, how it kind of made her as a person. It always intrigued me. Because I just feel like, especially working at Youth Build and watching everybody communicate with the kids and just let the kids be themselves. They're not constantly like, oh, don't say that and don't do this and we're not going to talk about that. No, they keep it very real with the kids. They're high schoolers. I remember when I was in high school, we tried to put on a play that we wrote, and they wouldn't let us do it only because it was a parody of the movie The Hangover. It's like, we're high schoolers. It's like, obviously we're sitting here having this conversation. We've seen the movie, so why don't we, this is a kid's version of that. And you're saying we can't do it. You're just not acknowledging the existence of these things in the outside world. I think that's the inverse of the parents are people, the kids are people too. They're just smaller. They're just smaller people.
Yeah. It's that whole thing about uncomfortable conversations, and I'll tell you, as a parent, I had to really face that, and I had some really wise people. I'm so blessed to have some of the people who are in my life because they're older, they're wiser, and one of them said to me, because I was voicing a concern about my child going through hard things, and I didn't want them to suffer. And she said to me, she looked at me, she's like, look at where you're at. Did you get here by no suffering? And I thought, no, actually the suffering really shaped the person I was. And she said, do you want to steal that from your child? And I was like, oh my gosh, talk about a hard decision. It's like, no. And oh my gosh, you really have to be a strong person. You really have to be a strong person to be able to say, like, I have to sit back and let them go through this. So I'm not there yet. I'm on my way. It starts with acknowledging that I have a problem. So my name's Christina, and I don't want to see people suffer.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I forgot. I don't know what
You forgot.
It happens.
No, I usually the thing I always tell my son when you make a mistake, just let it be a lesson, not a stepping stone down towards the bottom. Because you got to learn, and he's got to go through them. Like you're saying, like, it is hard to sit back and know that he's going to have to make some mistakes. But if he makes the same mistakes that I did, it might shape him into a better person, or even mistakes that I didn't make. As long as he keeps trying to learn, and he, it's not, like I told him, not repeated mistakes. It's not just the same thing over and over. We'd be good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all in the way you deal with those mistakes, in the way you learn from those mistakes, for sure.
Yes.
The other thing that Priyanka and I were talking about was educating ourselves, just on so much of the world. We kind of talked about it last Monday on topics of race, sexuality, of gender, of all this stuff, and in this new world we live in, where we're becoming more open. There's still a lot that a lot of us don't know. And as I get older, when I had kids, Priyanka and I were kind of on the same page, where we want to be able to be a little prepared if anything ever does come our way like that, and we're able to guide them through it. We're able to say, yes, we know what's happening here. We've educated ourselves, and we can pass this on to you. It's the learning thing that you were saying earlier, for sure. You just got to keep learning, no matter how old you are, because you're going to be able to pass that down.
Yes.
And I think I don't know why today I'm feeling this superhero comparison thing, But I know one of my favorite things about the movie Black Panther was, that I get really emotional at the end of that movie every time I see it, just because while it was a big movie for people of color, the ending of that movie always just strikes me as a message of, here's a world united. This is what it could look like. Here are children and elders that treat each other with mutual respect, that learn from one another, who, adults are not closed off to learning from kids.
Hmm.
The smartest person in Wakanda is like 18, and the elders have respect for her. They've got respect for the other people. And it's just interesting how it's such a hard thing for us to do sometimes, to differentiate. But just remembering that we're all people. What it keeps coming back to.
Yes, humility is a major superpower. It's a major superpower. So,
and I think you and I, the last time we spoke, I think we talked a little bit about letting people fail, keeping people from their rock bottom. Sometimes you have to let people figure it out on their own. I know a lot of my life, there were so many things I went through that shaped me as a person. But prior to going through these things, there was the parent or the adult figure who told me verbatim, when X situation comes up, don't do these things. And I said, yeah, sure, whatever. And then it wasn't until I actually went through the situation that I was able to learn it. So it's one of those things. I've talked to younger people before, and I've told them straight up, you might not listen to a word I say right now. You might still turn around and do exactly what I'm telling you not to do right now. But I just hope that when you hear what I'm saying, you'll think back on this and go, oh, shit, okay.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's the power of storytelling. That is the power. When we storytell and we use our own stories, people put their guard down. They have the ability to put their guard down. And when I tell them what came of my mistakes, I want them to learn something. That's called wisdom. I love talking to people and learning and hearing from them. The world is our teacher. So there's just so many people. There's such diversity, and we need to have conversations. We need to have tough conversations. And, granted, there are a lot of people who live behind walls. They cannot let people see what's going on. And it's a journey. We have to just honor them where they're at. We didn't start out where we're at right now. I look at people and like, they're on their journey. They're not there yet. And, have right and healthy expectations, just to love them where they're at, really. So, but yes, I love to tell, I don't love it, I'll tell you that, but I love the effects of telling people some of my hardest things that I've gone through. You tell somebody that you were homeless for 3 years and they'll listen. When you're not there yet, they're like, I'm sorry, what? You were what? And it's like, let me tell you. And it really started with not acknowledging how you feel, which is coming back to what we were talking about, is facing the hard things, doing those hard things, saying like, something inside of me doesn't feel right. Instead of saying I shouldn't feel this way, allowing it to come out and just have it exposed, bring it out into the light. Oxygen kills a lot of stuff. So when you bring out some things, it allows you to start processing.
Yeah.
And that's really important. And it's hard. So,
right now we're talking, this whole episode has been about hard choices and talking about sharing personal stories. I know I've even shared it on the show before, but I've definitely not been sharing my story today of my hard choice that I made, because I think that's what trips me up about it is that judgment that I do get from people. But it was a hard choice. It was a hard choice in my life, especially as somebody who wanted a child, who wanted to be a father and stuff like that. But then sometimes I look around at people I know and I see, they're not together. I watch their kid in the middle of things. And I think I avoided that, or my kid doesn't have to go through that. The opposite end of that is morbid, but it was a hard choice, and it shaped me for sure. It has completely made me who I am today.
Hmm.
If I had a time machine, I can't say I'd do it any differently, because I'm happy with who I've become. But it was still hands down the hardest choice I've ever made in my life.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and to that effect, we're the world is filled with haters and fans. So, I mean, they each have their purpose, though.
Yeah, we're learning that here at the Chase and Shep Show.
Yeah.
Right. I think one of our videos got our downvote the other day.
We got an old dislike on something the other day.
Yeah. You're going to, if you're authentic and real and you're going through this journey and letting it kind of all hang out, you're going to get people who don't like it because they're not on the same journey. We're not supposed to be liked by everybody.
It would be very boring if we all were the same.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I could find somebody that was just like me, that'd be ideal. Just kidding. That would drive me absolutely nuts.
Exactly.
To jump way back earlier, when you were saying, Shep, about how you don't really get embarrassed about stuff. It's so funny for me as somebody who is like an entertainer and everything, an actor of all things and everything, that I get so embarrassed, like in front of people in certain scenarios, like even like if I'm in a play and somebody asked me to do some of it before, like I'm just like learning the lines and stuff. Like, oh, do it for me. My family would do that to me back in the day. They'd be like, oh, do a few of your lines for me. I'd get so weird about it. I'd get so nervous and embarrassed. And I was insistent, like, you have to wait until the show to see it. And it's funny to me that I get so embarrassed by other people sometimes too. If I'll go out in public with my friend Phil, and he'll start acting a fool, and I'm sitting there, shut up! Everybody can hear you. What are you doing? But I always think of a good friend of mine from Tennessee named LJ, who we worked together at this restaurant, and I may have told this story before, but we worked together at this restaurant, and I worked at the restaurant, and then 2 doors down, I also worked at the liquor store. And so I was at the liquor store, and it always was like my favorite time of day, because I would have that big picture window at the liquor store, and I would look up, and coming down the street is this big old tall lanky black guy just dancing his ass off down the street, just having the time of his life. He's got his headphones on, and I'd always Snapchat him and send it to him, because I can't do that. I was always in awe of LJ, at the fact that he could just bust a move whenever he damn well felt like it, and I thought that was amazing, because I like to dance and stuff, but that's not something most people know, because I'm doing it behind closed doors. I'll do it, if you're in an environment that calls for it. But like, there have been times where I'm going for a walk and I might be feeling a song, but everything in my power, I will not dance in public. I will not let people see me. That feels weird to me. I don't like having people hear me sing. But I always think of LJ, and I just think that's so cool. Just a sense of I don't know, confidence or bravery or what have you. But it always comes down to dancing in public for me. If I could dance in public, I feel like I could knock
That's
out
awesome.
anxiety for myself.
Well, remember when we were talking the last time, we were talking about mirror neurons, that if you want to do something, if you see somebody who has what you want, hang out with them, because whatever it is, I have somebody in my life exactly for that reason, because he just does not care what people think about him. And I'm like, can I rub up against you? Can like some of that come onto me? Like, what is that like? And he's over it, right? He is so firmly rooted in who he is and his calling in life. And so it's not that he doesn't get hurt or offended by people who say, but that's not his motivation. He's not a people pleaser. He's not. So I'm just kind of like, I'm gonna hang out with you for a while, and I'm hanging out, fly on the wall. I'm going to learn. My brain is taking in all this great stuff. My mirror neurons are getting fed, and I'm going to learn from it. So he recommended a book. I'm like, this is awesome. That's great.
It's fun. See, I've had embarrassing moments throughout my entire life that I got over it. I was just like, it can't be no worse than these, so we're good to go. I feel like so. I mean, but I do like, Chase, like you were saying, I'm same. I mean, if I was in a random spot and somebody popped up to me and it's like, hey, let me hear you rap or something, I'd be like, I know I'm not doing that right now. Like, but that's more.
I hear
Yeah, well, instead of getting, I'd just be embarrassed. I'd just be like, I don't do that by your demands. Like, I'll do that when I feel like it. But, I can get embarrassed still too pretty easily. But it's just like, it's the weirdest things that I feel like embarrass me these days. I'm like, oh, that's silly to be embarrassed by that.
You know what I love to do? There's a website called 16personalities.com, and it's a free personality profile. And so when somebody is different personality than me, which it happens every single day, like every day of my life, I meet somebody who has a different personality than me, and I love it. But if there's somebody who has something that I really admire, I'm like, can I spy on you a little bit in your brain? Can I see what's your personality? Can you share with me? And I'll just read up about that. And it's just, I think it's so fascinating because there are so many people with so many gifts and talents. And, some people are outgoing. I'm not. I'm an introvert. And I know that I will do this and I have YouTube videos and I will go public speak, but that's not natural. Like I really have to force myself to do these things because I know what the purpose is. I know, the good that's coming out of it, and I know who I'm speaking to. But that is not naturally me. There are some people I know oh my gosh, they could live up there. They love that. So it's so wonderful how diverse we all are. How we're just interesting. Everybody's so different, and we're not supposed to be like everyone else. And we all have our own superpower. We all, bringing it back to what Chase is talking about, we all have our own superpower. So, I guess the first thing we need to do is just embrace that we are unique, we are different, get to know who we are so that when we're out in the crowd, we don't want to be like everyone else. I love Dr. Seuss's line. He says, I think that's him. Don't try to be like everyone else. You were born to stand out, and it's just really just a message about conformity. Don't try to conform. Get to know who you are and be the best you can be, which is really, really hard. That's a hard choice.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I've always tried to do my whole life. Like since I was back in the teens and stuff, like that's the mindset that came in there, is just to be unique and just be my own self. And it's followed me throughout life. People question me all the time on different aspects of this or that, and it's like, don't worry, like I'm me, that's all that matters. Don't worry about the rest.
That's awesome.
I think that's about our time. So another fantastic Mental Health Monday. Christine, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it was a great chat.
Until Wednesday, everybody. See you.
Bye.